Thank you for joining us this afternoon, America, and welcome to Indivisible with John Stubbins. I'm your host, John Stubbins. You know, it's interesting because you hear about that shining city on the hill, and President Reagan used to say it, and you've heard it recently at the RNC. And, getting back to that and getting back to being the America that we can be is something that we all are striving for. And to get there, we need American patriots to step up in all walks of life, no matter what you do, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're a fireman or a police officer, or if you're coaching, or if you're doing a talk show. It doesn't matter. We need people to step up and fulfill their destiny for us to reach that goal of that shining city on the hill. I was in the United States Air Force, and because of my time in the Air Force, and being a veteran, it's an honor for me to have my guest today. I've got Buzz Patterson coming on. He's running for California District 7 against Ami Bera, who's a Democrat. He's a Bernie Sanders socialist. Basically wants to bring anarchy and just misery to our country. And we're thankful that we have an amazing patriot, veteran, U.S. Air Force commander, Lieutenant Colonel, former White House aide, former carrier of the nuclear bomb, husband, father, veteran, author of many books, Dereliction of Duty, War Crimes, Conduct Unbecoming, and Reckless Disregard, other books. Fantastic author, but more importantly, American patriot. I want to bring on to the show now U.S. Air Force retired Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Buzz Patterson, who's running against Ami Bera in California District 7. How you doing, Buzz?
I'm doing great, John. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate the introduction, too. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. And from one Air Force veteran to another, we salute you, brother, for your service and for all that you've done for this country. You are truly a patriot, and someone like you in Washington representing the people of your district. For those of our audience that don't know you, tell us a little bit about how you decided to run and what transformed to get you to this place now.
Well, I'm a son of a 33-year Air Force career pilot and officer. I served 20 years, and just like you, John, I took an oath of office when I was commissioned in the Air Force, and that oath, as far as I'm concerned, never expires. I have been asked to run before in California, and it just didn't seem right in terms of my family, my wife, the timing with we've got young children, and it just didn't seem like the timing was right. But it's right this time. Our state of California is in dire straits. 20 or 30 years of Democratic leadership has led us down this path. We have tremendous issues. I mean, President Trump was here in Sacramento yesterday.
Yes.
Meeting with our Governor Gavin Newsom and touring the fires that we've had that have been burning the state pretty much for almost a month now. In Sacramento, as I look out my hotel room right now, I can still see the smoke, and it probably won't be going away for quite a while. Some of the fires are not contained. We also have homeless issues in California, and again, as a father and a husband, I'm seeing the failures of the Democratic Party in this state, and especially in Sacramento County, which is where I'm running. I'm running California 7, which is East Sacramento up into the foothills. So Ami Bera has been in that position for 8 years. So it just seems right, feels right, John, to get back into service again. After I left the Air Force, I flew for Delta Airlines for 16 years as a pilot, and I loved every minute of that too. But it's time to get back to work.
Sure.
And we're doing it. Yeah, we're doing it. We're back. We're grinding hard, and we're going to win.
Is Jelly Bellies and have they been spared up there?
The Jelly Bellies so far are still here. Yeah, the Jelly Belly factory is not going anywhere. Right outside of Travis Air Force Base, which is where I was when the White House called to go serve at the White House. So yeah, so far Jelly Bellies are still good.
Well, the reason I asked is I got a report from a friend of mine who lives in Napa Valley that she had actually turned me on to someone up there, and I got word that Herm was, really freaking out because the fires were getting so close to the factory. By the way, do you know Chris Bish?
I know Chris Bish very well.
I had Chris on the show. Fantastic patriot. She was telling me about Doris Matsui and the corruption, the dirty money that they laundered into the Clinton family, and and also what had happened at the Air Force Base with the toxic water, the standing water up there, just horrific. And that's not over, by the way. And she had told me that, and she exposed it, that Matsui, her residence isn't even in California; it's in Maryland. So,
which is not, there's a lot of those people actually, John. We should actually be talking about that and revealing those people. I mean, if you talk about scumbags like Adam Schiff, he lives in Maryland too. He doesn't live in the district. And you're gonna be talking to Eric Early. I know who's running against Schiff. Eric lives there, but in his district. But people like Matsui and Schiff. And there's a lot of them that don't live in their districts.
No,
and they don't even live in their states. I don't know how you can get away with that.
That should be a deal breaker, right?
It should be
right off the bat. I know that you're a father, and again, the timing of you running, getting back to that, it ended up being a good time now, and thank God. I know that Bera is, like I said in the opening, he's a Bernie Sanders supporter. Green New Deal, open borders, chaos amok on tap, abortion on tap, you name it. And with the fires that you brought up, it's interesting because just like President Trump said, and I watched him yesterday in California, this was preventable. Okay. And
totally.
This is a management issue, an issue that Gavin Newsom decided he just wasn't going to adhere to. He wasn't going to do anything about. And look at California now. And the residents, the thing that bothers me, and I got into a conversation with someone earlier on the phone about this, is that for some reason, California residents, they see the decline. I mean, they have to see it in their own lives, in their families, in their schools, hospitals, sanctuary cities. You see this decline happening, and, they keep voting Democrat. And it just really bothers me because, it's like Dad used to say when I was a kid, if Tommy jumps off the bridge, are you going to jump off too? It's just common sense. And you would think that people would say, okay, just for quality of life issues alone, my kids, their future, our family, our faith, all these different issues, the homeless issue, the fatherless issue. Now we have BLM, Antifa, all these things going on. And now you have fires, you have the blackouts. When do Californians say enough is enough? We're not voting Democrat anymore because this is what they've given us and we don't like it.
I think you're seeing that happen right now. I see it every single day, John. I think you're seeing that happen right now because the problems that California has right now run across party lines. If you're talking about, the fact that our small businesses have been shut down for 6 months now, for the most part, most of them. I mean, if you're a restaurant owner, if you're a mom and pop shop business owner in California, you're getting hammered right now, and a lot of those companies aren't gonna make it.
Right.
Same with the COVID-19 response in California, for example. You can go to a casino, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Costco, but you can't go to church. And one of the only wineries that's open in California is Gavin Newsom's winery over in
Of
Napa
course.
Valley. Yeah, and I'll say this about my opponent, Ami Bera. Now, this really is what I think most people are upset about in my district. Ami Bera has not been to work since March. He has not been to Washington, D.C. since March. He votes by proxy. He uses a representative, a Democratic representative in Arizona, but Bera himself has not been to Washington, D.C. to go to his office and work since March. And I think I don't care who you are, Democratic, Republican, no party preference, Green Party, Libertarian, whatever. You have to understand and recognize that when you elect somebody to office, they represent you. And I think a lot of Democrats have misinterpreted that to meaning the constituents work for them. And that's not who I am. I'm going to work really, really hard every single day for my constituents. And I know I will never lose that spot in my heart, because I know that I am there to serve them. And I think Bera lost that connection a long time ago. And he's done nothing other than vote with Nancy Pelosi in lockstep for 8 years. 100% of the time he votes with Pelosi. And I think Californians, regardless of party preference, are starting to see that, and they want change. And the Democrats have not delivered that change.
Is he an Islamic jihadist?
He is a universalist, so he believes that all religions matter, that all religions are the same. He basically, you were mentioning abortion a little while ago. So both he and his wife are medical doctors. His wife practices. Bera does not. Ami does not practice. His wife is on the board of Planned Parenthood. And I have a problem understanding how you can be a medical doctor family, and support abortion on demand. Especially, he also supports third trimester abortion, which in my mind is murder. So the guy just doesn't. He's not a jihadist in a sense. He's really kind of a backbencher. Doesn't do anything. Wants to ride the coattails of Pelosi and endorse Matsui. And doesn't give the bang for the buck to the constituents of California 7.
Yeah, and and I was hitting on with Chris Bish. I was hitting on the dirty money that Matsui had funneled in from China. And speaking of that, I was just before I got on the show, I was looking here. There was an article, and this is by CNN, who I don't trust. By the way, just full disclosure, I do not trust fake news.
Yep.
But they say that Trump's tariffs violated global trade rules, right? The WTO says. And I know that decoupling from China is right at the top of your list. So I wanted to, and California is is really on the receiving end of those policies, and the Democrats like, Schiff, Pelosi, Maxine Waters, people like that, Matsui, and your opponent, Bera, that are killing the policies that are killing Californians, taxpayers.
Yeah.
People want to live a normal life. And I wanted to see if you wanted to maybe touch on that and the issue dealing with China.
Well, China, Bera sold out to China too, so it's not just Matsui and Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein and some of the others here in California. It's pretty much, if you're a Democrat, Gavin Newsom is also sold out to China. So if you're a Democrat in the state of California, you basically owe your fortunes and your career to China. Matsui is a perfect example of that. Bera is on the House of Technology and Nuclear Proliferation panel, and he's come out in support of the WTO. He's come out in support of the World Health Organization. He's come out in support of China, and that just goes. And he also, being an Indian American, he has been in the pockets of India. And for example, here's a little tidbit that I think Sacramento County is aware of, but he didn't get held accountable for this. Bera's dad was illegally bundling money from Indian donors to the tune of $300,000 through special interest groups and also PACs, where they were basically laundering that money, and they got caught. And Barra threw his dad under the bus, and Barra's dad went to jail for a year. And Barra said, of course, he didn't know anything about it. But I can tell you, John, as a candidate, I know without exception where every single dollar comes into my campaign, and there's no way on God's green earth that Almy Barra did not know his dad was bundling money from India, and he let his dad go to jail to keep his career intact. And that's the kind of guy he is. And that's the kind of guy most of these folks are, Matsui and Pelosi. They'll do anything. They'll throw anybody under the bus, including their dad or their mom.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I tell you, it's a perfect reminder of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden over in China and
Yep.
Ukraine.
Yep.
I mean, what did he walk away with? $1.5 billion out of China?
He did.
And then out of Ukraine, he's some kind of energy expert. This guy's a crack addict, right?
A crack addict who got kicked out of the Navy. They busted him because he was driving onto an Air Force base in Arizona, and they found drug paraphernalia and crack residue. So he had a very short career in the U.S. Navy. But this is Hunter Biden we're talking about. And he also, as you pointed out, he was getting $1 million a year from Burisma in Ukraine. But yeah, he walked away from China with $1.5 billion for his investing firm, and he did that. He did that by flying on Air Force Two to China with his dad on a few occasions. So that's also kind of that's illegal. That's illegal as hell. That he's over there cutting deals with the Chinese personally, and that's who Biden is. That's who Joe Biden is he's been pulling these strings for a long time, and we'll have a lot more of that if we don't defeat him in November.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people don't even know about the uranium, and that whole deal, and believe it or not, it all ties into the attempted coup of President Trump, through this, Crossfire Hurricane and the Steele dossier and this whole nonsense. We're just tired of it. The American patriots, the American public, law enforcement, middle America, people on both coasts that don't agree with the Democrats, military veterans, active duty personnel, churches who can't even congregate, but yet you can go to a weed shop and buy marijuana, or you can go to Planned Parenthood and they'll welcome you with open arms for an abortion, right? So
exactly right.
We're sick of it. We don't want it anymore. And I believe that the American people are wising up. And just like I said last night on Ann Vanderstill's show, I think what's happened, and look, make no mistake, Americans have gotten complacent. We've gotten comfortable and lazy to a certain degree. Okay. Now, I understand that we have families, we have kids, we have careers. Sometimes you barely have time to cook dinner for your kids at night. Mom and dad are both working. It's not like when you and I grew up where, dad worked and mom stayed home. Maybe mom babysat or mom did something else. Now, in most families that have, both parents, you're going to have both parents working, and just to make ends meet for most families. So those families, those parents, those adults, those Americans, they don't have time to follow up and see what's going on, at least a deep dive into the news and how it's affecting them. So a lot of Americans, they get with their friends to find out what's going on, and to hear and follow up. And a lot of times that is also the flip side of that coin, is that with the Democrats, they don't do any research, because if they did research, they would know we can't vote for you anymore. Okay.
That's right.
And then on our side, we have people that they're so busy that it's not until election time they start to dive in and see what's going on. Like right now, from now until the election, it's hot time. It's, people are trying to figure out what's going on and who's telling the truth, who's lying, who's doing what. So I'm with you on that. And we've got to be real careful about not letting the opportunity pass to make sure that we're educating people, having a strong ground game, being out there with the people and letting them know precisely where they've been fooled or lied to or bamboozled, or and you mentioned all the bad actors out there: Newsom, Pelosi, Feinstein, Matsui, Waters, Schiff. Look, we've had on this show, we've had on a bunch of different congressional candidates that are running against these scumbags who have deluded California. And basically, for all intents and purposes, Buzz, they've really brought California to her knees, because when I lived in California, I was there in the 80s, and California still had that magic. It still had that special place feel. When I lived in Petaluma, 85, 86, 87, I felt like I was living in the 50s. It was a dream.
Yeah.
Okay. I talk to people out there now, they say you wouldn't recognize the place. People
and that's really another reason why I'm running, John, is the fact that as a California native, you actually have two choices right now. You can leave, and a lot of people are leaving. A lot of small businesses. My wife and I have lots of friends that have packed up and moved to Texas, Nevada, Colorado, Idaho, Utah. So you can leave. A lot of people are doing that, or you can stay and fight. And we decided to stay and fight. And I think that what Californians are starting to figure out really quickly is that the great state. So I first moved out here in the early 90s, and it was really a kind of a surreal place to be. The beaches, the weather.
Sure.
You could snow ski and water ski in the same day. You could go to Napa Valley and tour the vineyards, and it is a remarkable place. But we have let it deteriorate substantially, and it's time. And again, I do believe that most Californians are figuring it out. Yesterday, I went to the event for President Trump here in Sacramento, and the people that were there to support Trump, we probably had 2,000 or 3,000, and there were probably maybe 40 or 50 there supporting Biden. And then we had the Antifa thing, so it got kind of ugly yesterday afternoon getting out of that event at McClellan Park here in Sacramento. Yeah. There's one idiot jumped on top of a CHP police cruiser, and they just dumped him in the street. And the Antifa guys.
I saw that. I saw that.
Oh yeah. So I was just right behind that. I was actually trying to get out myself, and the Antifa guys cornered me a little bit. So I just kind of spun it around and went the other direction. But right after that was the guy jumping on the CHP cruiser. So I mean, and so people, but really, the Trump supporters that were there. Chris Bish was there. I got a chance to hang out with her a little bit. The Trump supporters were peaceful, patriotic. They were just thrilled to be able to see Air Force One land and to see President Trump and
sure
to share their patriotism and the music. And then it didn't go south until Biden supporters and Antifa and BLM showed up too. So I got the hell out of there after a while. So I don't need that on my record. I don't need that on my record. I don't need to be beating up BLM people or Antifa people.
No, it's interesting though, because and by the way, I'm glad that you and Chris got to hang out. It's interesting though, because it's like back to what you were saying about people, they are leaving California, and
Yep.
What's it cost now to run a U-Haul? A couple grand? I mean,
Yeah.
because there's such high demand. But you're absolutely right. See, people like us, we're going to stand and fight, okay? Because you can run, but if these policies that Biden and Harris want to employ, and that all of California is already employed to ruin California, if they go nationwide, you're not going to be able to run anyway. So you're going to have to deal with it. Better to stand and fight. And
John, that's a great point, because a lot of people across the nation will say that, I don't really care about California. California can drop off into the Pacific Ocean, that kind of thing. That's not going to help things, because how California, we are the 5th largest economy in the world. California, the state of California is, and so what happens here does transfer to the rest of the nation. Our politics transfer, good or bad. our problems transfer, good or bad. I mean, we've got the MS-13 coming through here. We've got the homeless issue that's now impacting the rest of the country as well. So people who want to wish that California would just go away, that's not an option.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. That's
No,
not a
it's not.
sustainable option.
It's not. I mean,
now, I will say this, and this is in regards to standing and fighting and staying, right? So you stay, you're going to stand and fight. Now, when it comes to BLM and Antifa, I do believe that we are at the point now where insurrection is in play, okay? I believe we're at the point now where, because here's what it is, okay? And I've been talking about this a lot on the show. You've got several people, several groups, besides just the labels of BLM, which is a Marxist movement, a Maoist movement, a Black Power, Black Liberation Army movement, which is totally racist, by the way. And we'll get into education here in a minute. And then you've got Antifa. Now, in those two groups, you have several things going on. Now, you have some legitimate people that are peacefully protesting.
right.
Okay. But inside of that total package that you're looking at on your television screen, that part of the I guess movement is really dead now. Okay, because that part of the movement has completely lost validity, because the majority of the movement and the leadership of BLM's movement is radical, is violent. They've stated what they want. They do want to defund police. They do want to destroy all of our statues. They do want to destroy God and take God completely out of America. And basically, they want America to burn, literally. Same thing with Antifa. So these people are violent. They're criminals. So you've got people in this group, in both groups. Some are just violent anarchists that are actually part of the movement, part of the leadership of the movement. And then you've got other people that just see the opportunity for criminality, and they're just pure felons and thugs. And I say this because we're at the precipice. We're at the point now where force is going to be required. And look, police are leaving every day.
Yeah.
You know, they're retiring, they're walking off the job. And I don't blame them, quite frankly, with what they've had to deal with. But I got to tell you this, if they're not around to deal with this, the American people will. And you started to see signs of that over the last couple of weeks. And as this thing, if it keeps snowballing and getting worse, you're going to see American patriots in the street dealing with these criminals and these thugs and these anarchists. And what they don't know is that we outnumber them. See, they think in their mind that they outnumber us. And the reason they believe that, Buzz, is because on television, when everybody's watching this, you know, the looting and the burning and the assaults, there's nobody around to stop them, right? So they believe in their minds now that as time has passed this summer and no one's really stopped them, that they believe that they've got carte blanche to continue this behavior. And they believe there's nobody going to stop me. There's nobody who's going to do anything about it. So they keep getting bolder and bolder and bolder in their actions. Now they're attacking elderly people. I'm sure you've seen the videos. Elderly people with a walker in New York City or LA or Chicago or Seattle or Portland. They'll go up, come up from behind, knock them out, and keep walking.
Yeah. I tell you what, in the common denominator, the common denominator in all these cities is Democratic leadership. So you're talking about Seattle, you're talking about Portland, you're talking about Sacramento. Right outside my window of this hotel, John, is a couple of main streets of primarily minority business owners who had their businesses looted, burned. Uh, you know, there's graffiti all over them. They're all boarded up now. I mean, literally, there's blocks and blocks and blocks of this right outside
Right.
of where I am. In Sacramento, same thing as in Los Angeles, San Francisco. I mean, we could go on and on. But so you're not seeing it happen in Republican run cities, but you're seeing it happen in democratically run cities. And you're right. If the police in places like Seattle and Portland and Sacramento let this happen, it's like that idiot yesterday, that guy that jumped on the CHP police cruiser. He thought he could get away with that. He thought they would stop for him because he's seen it on TV, and apparently it went well for those people in Seattle, so he thought he was going to get away with it. And that CHP guy had different ideas and just dumped his ass in the road. And, so it was beautiful. So, so you're right. And I think you're right. I think what's happening is most Americans, again, that's why we had the Second Amendment. We had the Second Amendment for a lot of reasons, but one of them is not if the government can't protect us, we're protecting ourselves, right? And I think I get that from both sides of the aisle as well. The Second Amendment is for the most part, if you're not a Marxist or an anarchist, you support the Second Amendment. I mean, there's a lot of Democratic gun owners in this country. It's not just Republicans that own guns; it's the Democrats and the independents do as well. So I think we have allowed the media has fueled this.
Yes.
They have poured fire onto the flames of what was going on in Minneapolis and Seattle and Portland, and they're not objective enough to say, hey, here's the other side of that story. Here are the small business owners that just lost their businesses, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, right outside the door here. Their businesses aren't going to come back, and they're not talking about that. Yeah, destroyed. Their lives. So their lives have been destroyed. I mean, can you imagine the sweat equity that went into some of these places? I mean, if you have a restaurant that's not part of a chain, if you own a dry cleaning store, if you own a small grocery store, you put years and years and years into that business, and now they can't afford to reopen. And you're done.
It breaks your heart because these people really love their communities. They've poured their heart, like you said, blood, sweat, and tears into building a business that the community could have. And by the way, I want to make 2 quick points about this before we move on. Number one, when it comes to them get these Antifa and BLM activists and anarchists is what they are, getting bolder and bolder, what they haven't considered is what you saw yesterday with that police cruiser. They haven't considered that, they're rooting for the police to keep leaving the job and just get rid of them that way. But what they're not considering is that those officers and America in general, the public, their patience is at an end. Okay. As that patience comes to an end, these anarchists are going to see that their fuse is going to be about this short now, and people are going to start exploding on them. And I'm going to tell you,
it's not going to be pretty.
BITCH. And by the way, and Chris Bish pointed this out to me, by the way, and she sent me the photos. There is an Antifa office in downtown Sacramento. Are you aware of that, Buzz?
Yes, I am. I'm definitely aware of that. They like to attack me on social media, so I'm well aware of who those idiots are. And she's right. And I think that what people don't realize, and I think you're exactly onto something, John, is that most Americans, they like fairness, they want hope, they want to protect their families, their children, and provide. And I think that what Antifa, these anarchists, are not taking into account is it's not going to be pretty.
No.
This thing blows up because we have God and we have the guns. It's not going to go well for them. And a lot of these kids, I'm going to call them kids. I think most of these Antifa people are kids, and they just probably are misguided and don't really understand what they're doing, other than causing a lot of problems. It's kind of sad because on the BLM side, because I really do believe there is a time and a place in this country to talk about race relations and how to make things better for all races, because all lives matter.
Right.
But BLM has the organization. I'm not talking about the movement, but the organization. The organization has hijacked that dialogue for Black Americans. And I think that they're being done a huge disservice by aligning themselves with that organization. It's like you pointed out earlier, it's a Marxist organization. It's run by, in some cases, white anarchists. Kathy Rosenberg, I think is her name, that was who had her sentence. She bombed the Pentagon.
Susan Rosenberg.
Susanberg, yes.
Susan Rosenberg. And she was part of the Weather Underground.
Yes.
And the money in San Francisco, that's where she is coming from Thousand Currents. So it's funneling into Thousand Currents for BLM. And the three founders of BLM who lead that hierarchy, they are three homosexual women who are stated Marxists. Okay. I studied them before they changed their website when they started getting all the money. But defunding police is only the tip of the iceberg. They're connected with Islamic Jihad. They're connected with the CCP. They're connected. I mean, Black Power Movement, the Black Liberation Army. They're using the race deal, and believe me, it's black racism
because it makes them money.
Yeah, it makes some money. And by the way, before I forget, and I said this to Chris as well, I hope that you will also get on the phone with the Department of Justice to have that Antifa office shut down. There's no reason for them to be operating.
Well, as a matter of fact, tomorrow morning I'm meeting with the chief of police, not to discuss just that. I mean, I'm meeting with him to talk about law enforcement issues in Sacramento County on the whole. But I'm going to bring that up, and he's a really an amazing guy, and I just feel as a military guy, I think you can probably relate to this, but I just feel for what our police departments are going through right now. And the two cops that got shot, got hijacked, ambushed in Los Angeles a couple nights ago in Compton. And I feel for what they're going through. And I hurt for them. Yes. As you pointed out earlier, there's a lot of people who are leaving the police force. I met with about 35 law enforcement professionals here in Sacramento County about 3 weeks ago. I mean, I had Border Patrol there, I had corrections officers, I had CHP, I had local PD guys and girls there. And I said, what? I said, what's the primary challenge you guys have? And one of them is budget cuts. So when you defund the police, it's counterproductive, right? Because when you defund the police, you take away money from their training that helps them deal with issues like the inner cities. The other thing is that most police departments across the country, especially in Sacramento, are trying to hire more of the minority groups, more Hispanics, more Asians, more Black Americans.
Sure.
And so police departments are built on tenure. So if you take away money, guess who gets laid off first? It's the bottom guys and girls. So you say defund the police, you're doing exactly the opposite of what these neighborhoods need, and it's counterproductive. And they don't get that other than just the slogan, John. It's defund the police sounds great until you realize, okay, it's going to be less patrols, less minority officers, less money for training, and these inner city neighborhoods are going to pay for it. Just being human nature, right? If you're going to set me up as a cop or a law enforcement officer, I'm not going to come. I'm not going to answer that call. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, and you notice, and here's how you know that the BLM organization and their movement is bogus. Okay, they don't care about the Black lives that are being killed by other Blacks in Chicago. Right. They don't care if it's a Black cop that's killed. They don't care if it's a Black man or woman that's killed, that if that person disagrees with their philosophy. So
it has to be a white cop killing somebody.
Right.
If it's a Black cop or an Asian cop, like in the case of in Minneapolis, with George Floyd, there was one white cop, there was an Asian cop, there was a Hispanic cop.
Right.
Now the guy that put his knee on was the white guy. I get it, but but you're exactly right. and what really hurts my heart is when I see the death tolls coming out of Chicago every weekend, and it almost always involves a child,
Yes,
an
or
8-year-old, 6-year-old, or a baby.
yeah,
These drive-by things that are just that if you are really dead set on Black Lives Matter, then start addressing what's going on in Chicago. Start addressing what's going on in downtown LA,
New York.
in New York. I mean,
Yeah, it's exploding in New York right now. It's
yeah,
exploding. And
yeah, it's
and look, I blame Obama and Biden for much of this because until Obama got elected, and look, I don't want to hear about how we're a systemic racist country because white people voted for Obama. Okay?
yes.
And they did so in droves. So I'm tired of this false narrative about how this is a systemic racist country. It's nonsense. Obama and Biden set us back over 50 years in regards to race relations.
They set up this environment. You're exactly right.
They really did.
Yeah.
The Obama phones were used to community organize in Ferguson, in Baltimore. We know this because John Brennan was a part of it. And we uncovered it in the investigation of the FISA abuse and the whole Russia hoax. It all came out. And so we know that John Brennan was collecting data. And through that data collecting, we found out why those Obama phones were so important to Obama and Biden. But Obama and Biden did nothing for the Black community. Zilch. They provided him with those Obama phones, and they were used to cause anarchy. That's it.
I think they just created more of a chasm that didn't have to be there. And it really angers me when people, I get called racist almost every single day on my social media. And I can tell you, 33 years as an Air Force kid growing up on military bases, and then 20 years in the Air Force myself, I was never taught to see color. If you were on my wing going into combat, I didn't care what color you were. I didn't care what your sexual orientation was. All I cared about is we get in, we get out, we both go home, we live.
I've got your 6.
Yeah, exactly right. And it works. And and I grew up on military bases, and I can honestly tell you, John, that I didn't start seeing any of this until I got out of the Air Force and realized, hey, this is kind of an issue. And you're right, the 8 years of Obama and Biden didn't do us any favors there. And when people call Trump a racist, I mean, I think that guy's done more for African Americans in this country than just about any president ever.
He has,
and he's trying to reach out. He's trying to help. And
but the Democrats are blocking him.
Yeah.
So they're lying to their constituents. And the reason they're doing that is because they know that with these opportunity zones that I'm working with, and they know that if we're able to get in there and talk to the people, that these people won't vote Democrat anymore. Because
Democrats need victims.
Yeah.
They have to, a lot of their voter base is victims. So that's why they want open borders. That's why they've done historically well with minorities, but because they've always kind of helped, held down people and said, hey, we're going to give you more. Just hang out. We'll give you more free stuff.
Right.
And a lot of African Americans and Hispanics are figuring that out and saying, hey, what have you done for me, Democratic Party? I mean, I'm part of the walkaway movement with Brandon Strzok, and I see this all the time. Is that you go to these events, and it's not old white guys like me. You get a pretty good cross section of not only the ethnicities, but the sexual preferences, orientations, and people are starting to see. And the Democratic Party realizes that. They realize they're not stupid.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no doubt about it. And you saw this week that President Trump's numbers with the Hispanic community are really on the rise by almost 16% from where it was in 2016. So,
yeah.
And I would argue that the Republican Party right now, the conservative movement that Donald Trump really started, a new movement of the Republican Party, is probably more diverse than the Democratic Party right now.
I totally 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
100%. No dispute here with all. I saw it yesterday at the Trump rally.
Yeah, and look, Brandon,
It's
you brought up
everybody.
Brandon.
You know,
You
and the
brought
other
up
thing,
Brandon Strucka. Did you go to the? Were you able to make it to the Golden Gate Bridge March and Flotilla?
no, I didn't do that. I hosted him in Sacramento 2 weeks prior to that. And then I'm going to be in DC for the DC Walkaway March on October 2nd, I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So Brandon, I actually was at Brandon's initial event in DC 2 years ago, and Accountant Brandon is one of my is a really good friend, and so I missed San Francisco. My campaign manager was there doing that. I was back down in Southern California doing other things, but yeah, I'll be seeing Brandon and doing the Walkaway thing. So all your listeners out there, DC, October 2nd and 3rd. We're going to be at the Trump Hotel. We're marching downtown toward the White House on October 3rd. It's a Saturday, and I'll be there. Brandon will be there. Joy Vila will be there. All kinds of cool people. And last time it was a real party, so I'm expecting even a bigger party this time.
Well, do me a favor when you talk to Brandon, let him know, because I talked to his assistant. Let him know that we still like to have him on the show. And put a bird in his ear for me, will you, Buzz?
I definitely will. I've got him right here. I can reach out. I can reach out anytime.
Please do. I wanted to get into some of the issues, and just get your opinion on some things. I know that immigration, obviously, sanctuary cities. And by the way, there was an announcement yesterday that President Trump won the decision out of the 9th District Court.
Yes.
I'm sure you saw that.
Yep.
So that these families, they're going to have to make new plans. And now some of them may stay. He may work something out, but I'm glad that decision came back in favor of the president, because I think it was, and I'm just going to look here. The court ruled that President Trump can end the temporary protected status for illegal immigrant families. And the judge, Callahan, said that it wasn't even reviewable and it shouldn't have been blocked in the first place. So they blocked it just to drag it out.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Time.
That's what they do. And I tell you what, it's really kind of surprising. It came out of the Ninth Circuit. We call them the Ninth Circus out here in California. But so, I mean, Trump's winning a lot of these issues.
I couldn't believe it either.
Yeah, in the courts, and it's just the beginning. So yeah, immigration's big here in California. Of course, it's immigration affects everything that we do out here. Illegal immigration,
education
does
reform.
Well, look, I've got two kids. I've got 3 children. We've got one that's a senior in college. She goes to college here in California, and I've got 2 boys that go to high school, public schools, which we're proud of. But yeah, I mean, it impacts the illegal immigration aspect of California. Impacts literally our education for our kids. It impacts our highway structure. It impacts our jobs and our employment. It impacts our hospital systems. It impacts our tax structure. It impacts literally everything. So I'm a big proponent of legal immigration.
Yes, me too.
But not illegal immigration. No. I think Trump's doing the right thing there. I do support the wall. I think people should be coming here legally. There's a process for that. I would say this though, John. I think that one of the things I'm going to push when I'm elected into the House is that we need to relook at our legal immigration process. It shouldn't take a family from El Salvador 10 years to be approved to be American citizens.
Sure.
I would like to see that chopped down to like 3.5 to 5, because I know we're all backlogged, but 10 years for a family is, I mean, if I was looking at that, I wouldn't be that motivated to want to do it.
Sure.
So there's that. And
no doubt.
We can do it. We can do it a lot better than we're doing it. Is what
we can streamline it, and then on top of streamlining it, you keep building the wall so that you can shut down the illegal flow and let our border folks really be able to focus on other things besides having to protect the corridors of that where there is no wall. They can focus.
Well, we've got, so, not only so we have illegal immigrants coming across, but we've got a huge child trafficking situation here in Southern
Yes.
California. I mean, in that, as a father, that hurts me too. I mean, that touches my heart. So we want to be able to find these coyotes and take them out of the practice of smuggling kids across the border and smuggling drugs across the border and smuggling arms across the border. I mean, I just don't know why. It's an American sovereignty thing in my book. I don't know why any American citizen would not say, you know what? Yeah, let's control, because we don't really want child traffickers, and we don't want drug smugglers, and we don't want illegal arms coming into our nation. It's just, to me, it's just common sense.
It's common sense. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if you sit down with reasonable people and you have the opportunity to explain it to them in that way, I agree with you. They're on board. Yeah. It's common sense, right?
It is. Well, especially for the people that are here illegally. I don't care if, and this is really where it impacts families in California with the education thing, is that, as our taxes go up and up and up and up. So California, like I said earlier, John, California has the 5th largest economy in the world. And our public school system, depending on which study you look at, is anywhere between 43 and 48. That is a crime. To have the money, the resources we have in California, and our kids going to public schools are in the 43 to 48 in terms of the rest of the nation, that's unacceptable. We can do so much better than that. And I think when people start looking at the fact that some of that is illegal immigration, some of it's teachers unions. I mean, our teachers unions out here suck, and I would like to see those go away. I mean, I'm all about the teacher, not about the unions. And
my mom was a teacher. My mom was a teacher. Look, here's the thing. The kids are being indoctrinated, okay? It's just like we've been saying. BLM now has infiltrated the teachers union.
Yeah.
And now they're employing their curriculum, books like White Fragility, where they shame white kids in front of black kids in the classroom, where they bring in the 1619 Project, which is being countered by Bob Woodson's 1776 initiative, but it's not enough. Not when you're having, and I don't know if you saw this, but out in California, Los Angeles, they started sending waivers home to parents, making them sign agreeing not to watch their kids doing online instruction. So that they couldn't watch their kids or hear that their kids are being indoctrinated.
Same thing's going on in my school, our kids' school district. And here's the thing: this is also in LAUSD, is that the teachers union says we're not going to go back to work until we have Medicare for all, Black Lives Matter curriculum, defunding the police. They're a freaking teachers union. They should be worried about the kids and teaching and education. They shouldn't be worried about the police. They shouldn't be worried about Medicare for all. But that's what's happening in LA, and it's happening up and down the state of California. It's really, I can't tell you. But here's a thing I think that parents in California, well, across all states actually should be doing. Go to your local PTA meetings, go to your school district board meetings, go. And if you're not doing that, you can't sit on your hands and complain. So you've got to get out there and voice. My wife and I are very involved with our kids' basketball programs and other things that they're into. And I can't tell you that how much it helps to be in on those conversations, because they will drive, and you're going to wake up one day and go, why is my kid learning this stuff? Well, you had a chance and you didn't go, and that's unfortunate. So
yes, it's at the doorstep now. Okay,
exactly.
And look, I'm sure you saw this, where it was exposed. Actually, Tucker Carlson had it on his show. Gentleman that had come on and exposed his story about the Army, the FBI, our nuclear scientists who, they've been forced to take these white guilt classes. Yep. President Trump came in this week and said, or maybe the end of last week, said, no, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, no more.
Same thing needs to happen with our education reform. No way should BLM have a seat at the table. No. Not with their racist ideology. No. Our kids are already being indoctrinated.
Yes.
As it is. Think about it.
I'm 100% behind. I think President Trump is too. I'm 100% behind. So one of my big issues here in Sacramento County, one of my platform issues, is that parents should have the choice. You educate your kid through homeschooling. You educate your children through charter schools, private schools, public schools. Your call. But the money, as President Trump says, should be going to the parents.
That's right.
Let the parents decide. And I'll tell you what, public school systems will cease to exist.
Yeah, and on top of that, President Trump had made the statement a year or so ago when you started seeing, like at Cal Berkeley and some of these other schools, where these riots kind of began with Antifa a little bit.
Right.
BLM's been going on for a lot longer, and they've built into this crescendo. But President Trump now needs to follow through. He wins this election, follow through and start defunding these colleges that aren't allowing free speech, that aren't allowing conservative voices. It's got to stop. It's got to stop, just like with the education system. Moving on, I wanted to touch on healthcare and also the nursing home assisted living reform for our elderly. With this virus that came down on us, you saw the damage that it caused our elderly population. And you saw the idiot Cuomo in New York. First, he praised Donald Trump for everything that he provided and did, and he did everything that was asked. And then he went on TV at the DNC and lied to everybody and said Donald Trump didn't help him at all. He's a big fat liar.
Yep.
So I know that's big on your heart. So I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, it's most of the highest percentage of deaths, of course, coming out of COVID have been in senior citizens' homes, and that's one of our platform issues. Also, is just to get into these places and take a look at the actual care they're getting. It's substandard, it's subpar, shouldn't be happening in our country. It is. I've got parents. Both my parents are 87. They're still living at home, but they're probably going to need that kind of care here soon. And so, yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting in there and giving them some sort of seniors bill of rights. They should have the ability to, there was that situation where I think it was one of the workers in a senior citizens home in Michigan was beating up a guy, and filming it. And I mean, that was the most horrific thing I've ever seen, I think, on video. And so we need better, tighter controls on how those employees are hired. We need to have a higher standard, and it shouldn't be, they shouldn't be so divergent in terms of the quality these people are getting. And it's sad. It really is sad. We can do better.
There's no doubt. And some of that is also this BLM racist movement, because it's been going on now for a couple of years, where they've been taught to, push it with police. You saw what they did in New York. They de Blasio disbanded the Special Investigations Unit, which really was responsible for cracking down thoroughly on crime there, guns, illegal guns, which, look, American citizens, we have the Second Amendment. If you're a legal gun owner, you're allowed to have your gun. Criminals aren't allowed to have guns, but they don't care about the law, as you know.
Exactly right.
I also wanted to mention the homelessness issue because, in cities like San Francisco and Sacramento and Los Angeles, the homeless problem, you've got feces, needles, blood, rats. It's a toxic brew that's going to end up causing more disease that's going to breed out into the community. It's scary.
It is. And I'll tell you what, so Sacramento has the highest per capita homeless family rate in the nation. I'm not just talking about men and women, I'm talking about children. So the family structure, we have the highest per capita family homeless rate in the nation. And so my district has two rivers, Sacramento River and the American River. If you go up the American River, you can see these encampments all along the banks. When they were actually everywhere, but you go up the American River, you can see the encampments. And what happens to a lot of those feces, the human waste, the needles, it gets into the river and flows down into the bay. So it goes down to San Francisco. So it's poisoning a lot of the water that people are swimming in, they're boating in, and it's amazingly California. Gavin Newsom would tell you that it's an affordable housing crisis. That's maybe 5%. It's an addiction, mental health, unemployment, alcoholism, and some people. I got to say, if I'm talking to folks in these camps, some people just choose the lifestyle.
That's right.
There's just that. So, but we certainly can't just keep putting Band-Aids on it. We've got to have some sort of coordinated effort. So what California's been doing is just moving them around. And that's not the answer.
No.
We've got to give them the support. And I really do believe, I think it was the only thing that I would fault President Ronald Reagan for was back in the early 80s, he got rid of the mental institutions in California. I think it's time to bring those back and have these folks, the folks that need it, the folks that want it, let's treat them. Let's get them off the streets. And
I agree with you. We need to bring back the mental institutions. And to be quite frank with you, for those that need the help and can't recognize it because of their own mental condition, they need the state needs to have the ability to commit someone, quite frankly.
I agree with that. I agree. And one of the problems we're having is because when you talking about defunding the police officer, most oftentimes is the kind of the person right there that can go to these encampments and talk to the people and determine what the situation is. But if the police officers are not there, or they're not inclined to want to go there. I mean, some of these encampments, John, they're huge.
Oh, yeah.
I drove by the other day on a Friday night here in Sacramento, and it was like a party. I mean, there were probably 100 and some out there on the streets, with little bonfires, doing whatever they do. But nobody was there to oversee it, make sure it was safe. It wasn't. And it's a human tragedy, and it shouldn't be happening in a state as rich as California and in a city as rich as Sacramento. It just shouldn't be happening. And it's time for real leadership, some former military leadership to get in there and start getting this stuff done. And my opponent he has no willingness whatsoever to get his hands dirty.
No. Real quick before we go, Buzz, I wanted to save this question for last.
Okay.
What was it like to carry the nuclear bomb?
Well, I carried the football, which is the entire nuclear capability of our country, for 2 years. So I had an office in the White House and a bedroom in the White House. I went with President Clinton wherever he went, 24/7, Marine One, Air Force One, Camp David, vacations. A lot of sleepless nights because it's a pretty awesome responsibility. One that I would lay up at night and say, and think, what am I going to do if it actually comes down to have to do this? So every day was a little bit different. 2 years was a 2-year assignment. Got to hang around President Clinton a lot of the times, go jogging with him, go to the golf course with him. I got to hang around Hillary a lot too, and that wasn't nearly as much fun. So,
I bet.
Yeah, it was night and day. But I survived. I'm still walking around. So that's my first book, Dereliction of Duty, is all about my time with the Clintons, and it was my first bestseller, and kind of got me started in the political arena. And I'm looking forward to getting back there, John. And I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, listen, we were thrilled to have you, and hope that you'll come back and update us on how the race is going. By the way, it's been scrolling the whole show, but Buzz4, the number 4, Congress.com, Twitter, Facebook. Make sure that you connect with Buzz's campaign on his website. Again, that's Buzz, the number 4, Congress.com, and get with Buzz, donate to his campaign, help with his ground game, making phone calls. We have to make certain, leave no stone unturned, that we get Buzz elected and get Barra out of there, because he's not helping Californians. He's not even living there.
He's not.
God bless you, Buzz, and thank you for coming on.
You bet, John. Great being with you. God bless, and we'll come back on again soon. Anytime.
Thank you. And to all of you out there, thank you for joining us. Tomorrow, we've got on, you're going to love this. Tomorrow, we've got Eric Early coming on. He's running against Adam Schiff, also in California. So until then, till tomorrow, thank you for joining us here on Indivisible with John Stubbins. God bless you and good night, America.